everybody, this is Josh. Welcome to Consume the Canon. So we are still doing our kind of regroup after the holidays. Last episode we went through all of the content leading up to Attack of the Clones, the second film in the franchise, and we're going to be going through that content today, as well as getting into the first season of Clone Wars. But before that, there are a few pieces of content we need to discuss that happened right before the film. There are actually 3 pieces of content of the 4 that are between where we left off with Obi-Wan and Anakin and the beginning of Attack of the Clones that haven't actually been released yet. The first one is a novel targeted for release this April called Queen's Shadow. Don't know much about this novel, but it is going to tell us some storyline associated with Padme between episodes 1 and episodes 2. Another thing that hasn't come out yet is the Age of Republic comic for Jango Fett. That is scheduled for release later this week or next week. Once I get my hands on that, I will review it, but haven't done that yet because it hasn't come out yet. And then the third is a choose-your-own-adventure novel with Obi-Wan and Anakin, which I'm really excited about, but doesn't come out for a few more months. So those 3 things can't review yet, but they would actually fall right in this block between A Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. However, the one piece of content that I have read before the film is the Age of Republic Obi-Wan Kenobi issue. So this issue, written by Jodie Hauser, is fantastic. All of these issues are written by Jodie Hauser, and she's really great, but this one is really, really spectacular. It really feels like Obi-Wan's voice throughout. The artwork is really great. It's extremely entertaining. When I put it down, I wanted to read the next issue. There isn't a next issue, but I wanted there to be very badly. So this was a really great read. I highly recommend it. And it puts us in a really great position to lead right into the second film in the series, which is Attack of the Clones. Now, unlike Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones is a better film than I remember it being. Now, that doesn't mean that it's great. It still has its problems. It's got some pretty flat dialogue. The special effects did not age well. And there's some other issues with it. But it's actually pretty entertaining. There's some pretty fun stuff in it. You've got, of course, the amazing lightsaber battle at the end between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Count Dooku, and then Yoda fighting Count Dooku, the first time we've been able to see on screen Yoda actually fighting with a lightsaber. So that kind of stuff is really exciting. And frankly, one of the big problems that people had with the film when it first came out, the portrayal of Anakin as kind of a whiny baby, actually makes a lot more sense re-watching it after you've been exposed to the rest of the canon. I mean, that's one of the cornerstone issues that Anakin has. He can't deal with his power. He can't deal with all the things going on around him. And he doesn't have the tools to be able to do it. So it makes him come across as really whiny and just kind of an annoying pain in the butt. You know, a lot like his son later. But the one gap that we really have here is that there is no reason in the universe that Padme would fall in love with this person. Like, he is super desperate and super clingy. He's almost like a stalker in the way that he talks to her when he first meets her. And the last time that she saw him, he was 7. So it wasn't like she was falling in love with a child. And there's no reason for her to fall in love with him now. I mean, he's handsome, but come on, she's a senator. She could do a lot better than him. However, they do eventually fall in love and they kiss and they have a crazy experience where monsters almost eat them at the end of the movie. But overall, the film's better than you remember, I promise. But it is definitely lower on the list of films in the Star Wars series. Much like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones is paired with a few youth reader books. One is the read-along storybook and CD, and the other is the Golden Book. And much like the Phantom Menace, both of them have their pros and cons. And I would recommend the Golden Book if you're looking to get a young one involved with Attack of the Clones and giving them kind of the general story of what's going on. It doesn't shy away from things like the read-along storybook does. It tells a better story, like a more cohesive story. But both of them are good in their own rights, for sure. Next up is a 5-part series, Mace Windu, Jedi of the Republic. It takes place right after the first battle of Geonosis, and it is Mace Windu leading a team of Jedi to try and explore a separatist military base. One of the key things about this story, it's not really the battles or anything like that, it's the struggle between Mace Windu, who is a devout Jedi follower. There is the Jedi way and there is everything else, which is wrong. And one of the members of his team, which is starting to have doubts about how the Jedi do things. And it really shows Windu as the really devout member of the Order. There is no question in his mind about how the Jedi work and what they should do and what is right and what is wrong, which frankly is a little terrifying. It really gives a sense, since he is one of the leading members of the Order, how broken they are. And you really feel for the Jedi member of his team who's saying, this isn't right, we have to figure out a different way. It's really interesting the way that it's framed, because you almost want Mace Windu to be the hero, but you have really a lot of trouble rooting for him in the best way possible. It's a good series. I would have liked to see a little bit more outgrowth from it into the Clone Wars animated series, which comes up immediately after it, but otherwise, definitely solid issues. Go ahead and pick them up. After that, there are 5 issues of Age of Republic that have been announced but have not been released yet. None of those I can review because they don't exist. However, right after those is the beginning of Clone Wars. So we finally get into Clone Wars, the animated series. There are actually in the timeline 2 issues of Clone Wars, the animated series, or 2 episodes of Clone Wars, the animated series, Season 2, Episode 16, and Season 1, Episode 16, which happened directly before the Clone Wars movie. Both of them take place on Christophsis, and it's about the Republic breaking the separatist lines around Christophsis and sending them supplies to be able to help and then eventually take back the planet. Those 2 episodes are really good. They introduce some really important characters like Captain Rex and Commander Cody. And then they lead right into the Clone Wars movie. I hadn't watched the Clone Wars movie since it came out. So I hadn't watched it in 10 years. And it is way better than I remember it. I remember leaving there being really confused. Didn't understand, who is this Padawan? Why is he calling her Snips? Like, what is all of this? I just don't get it. But it was a really new idea. There wasn't a lot of Star Wars content before that was visual media. So this was a huge change from what we were used to. However, watching it now, it is heartbreaking in the best way. It is the beginning of this Ahsoka Tano, Anakin Skywalker arc, which has some incredible ups and downs and an absolutely heart-wrenching ending, which you can already see the signs of it leading to. This is actually the first time that Anakin is told he needs to learn how to let go of his Padawan, is in the Clone Wars movie. And that becomes the central theme of their entire relationship, all the way up to the ultimate face-off that they have later on in an episode of Rebels. But we're not ready to talk about that yet. We're just talking about the movie, and the movie itself is really great. Top to bottom, it is definitely the best film of the 4 films around the Clone Wars era. After the film, we've got 2 episodes from the beginning of Season 3, Clone Cadets and Supply Lines. These are both good episodes. They're kind of flashback episodes when you think about the original airing, but from a timeline perspective, they take place right after the end of the Clone Wars movie. My favorite of these 2 is Cadets, because it gives us our first look at Fives and Echo and Heavy and that team learning how to work together to be better clones. It is almost like a subgenre of Clone Wars episodes of clones learning how to be better soldiers and better teammates and better brothers. But it's probably the best one and definitely one of my favorite Clone Wars episodes. And then we go back to the beginning. We go to Season 1, Episode 1 of Clone Wars, This is the episode where Yoda and a small group of clone soldiers are trying to impress the king of Toydaria into joining the rebellion. This, in the series, of course, is the first appearance of Ventress, but from a timeline perspective, she's actually appeared in a number of episodes up until this point. So she's not a new character at this point, but the first time viewing it, she was amazing and a new Sith we'd never really heard of before. The episode's cool. Again, you get to see Yoda fighting a bunch of stuff, so if that's your deal, it's great. And it leads right into a 3-part arc about the Malevolence, which is a large ship. It's a secret separatist weapon that disables spaceships and destroys them. It's the first arc with General Grievous. And he's who he is, just wants to kill Jedi. I don't think in canon at this point in the timeline, we don't know why Grievous hates Jedi so much, although Jody Houser is writing an issue of Age of Republic specifically about Grievous, so hopefully we'll learn more there. But at this point in the canon, we don't know. We just know he's got a giant ship and he wants to kill all the Jedi, and he does a good job until Anakin and Obi-Wan stop him. After this is a couple of quick one-off stories. There's Rookies, which gives us more information about the clones and them kind of working together to be independent entities. There is Downfall of a Droid, which is a 2-episode arc where R2 disappears and Anakin gets a replacement droid that turns out to be a spy. If you want to see 2 astromechs fight, this is the series that you want to watch. And then after that is Bombad Jedi, which we're not even going to talk about because it's Jar Jar Binks pretending to be a Jedi, and I don't want to hear people talking about how he's a secret Sith. He's not a secret Sith. This episode's probably one of the worst episodes of the series, unfortunately. The next few episodes are pretty good and really show the direction that Clone Wars is going to end up going. Plus, there's a couple of really great introductions here. So, Luminara Unduli is introduced in these few episodes in Cloak of Darkness. Kit Fisto isn't initially introduced here, but he has his first on-screen speaking role in Lair of Grievous. Plus, there are the number of episodes around the capture of Count Dooku, which involve everyone's favorite character, Hondo Ohnaka, the Pirate King.
What kind of menace have you brought to my planet now?
This is the first time that he appears in Clone Wars, and he, of course, is a character who reoccurs not only throughout Clone Wars, but also all through the Rebels series as well. And he's one of my personal favorites. I was really excited to see him come on screen for the first time. There's a couple of one-off episodes that happen around here. There is the engagement with the Lurwyn in the episodes Trespass and Keepers of the Peace. And then there's also the introduction of the Talls, a race of basically abominable snowmen, the 4-eyed dudes with the little weird nose. You see one of them in the cantina in A New Hope. One of the best parts about this season, though, is actually the last 5 episodes. The first 2 of those 5 is about the Blue Shadow virus, and Ahsoka basically sacrificing herself for all intents and purposes to save the planet of Naboo. A lot of really great dramatic stuff in this. It's really solid 2-episode arc. And then the last 3 episodes is the saving of Ryloth and all the Twi'leks who live on Ryloth. It's also our first introduction to Cham Syndulla, who, of course, is the father of one of the main characters from the Rebels series later on. That arc is fantastic. 3-episode arc is fantastic. And it's a great closeout to Season 1 of Clone Wars. And that's a great place for us to leave off for this episode of Consume the Canon. Next time, we're going to be talking about the beginning of Season 2 of Clone Wars and the first novel that I've actually got to read in the Consume the Canon project, which is Catalyst, the Rogue One novel, which is all about the creation of the Death Star. So we'll be talking about that next time. Please like and share and subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see you next time on Consume the Canon.